What happens when freedom suddenly turns into fear again? The Israelites had finally left Egypt. After generations of slavery, after years of suffering, after nights filled with cries and chains, they were free. Or so they thought. They traveled through the wilderness beneath the burning desert sun. Families walked together. Children clung to their parents. Animals and carts stretched across the land in a massive moving nation. For the first time in their lives, the Israelites were no longer slaves. But behind them, back in Egypt, Pharaoh's heart began to change. The silence in his palace felt different now. The grief remained, the damage remained, but as the shock faded, anger rose again. "What have we done?" Pharaoh shouted. "Why did we let Israel go?" The ruler of Egypt could not accept defeat. His pride would not allow it. And so Pharaoh made a terrible decision. He would chase them. Quickly, chariots were prepared. War horses stamped against the ground. Egyptian soldiers armed themselves for battle. The sound of metal, wheels, and marching filled the air. Then Pharaoh himself climbed into his royal chariot, and Egypt began to move. Far ahead in the wilderness, the Israelites continued their journey, until suddenly someone saw it. Dust rising in the distance. At first it looked small, but then it grew larger, closer, faster. The ground began to shake. People turned, and what they saw filled them with terror. Egypt was coming. Pharaoh's army raced across the desert, hundreds of chariots, soldiers, horses, weapons shining beneath the sun. Panic spread through the Israelites. Some screamed, some grabbed their children, others looked around desperately for escape, but there was nowhere to run. Ahead of them stretched the Red Sea. Behind them thundered the army of Egypt. They were trapped. Fear overwhelmed the people. They turned against Moses. "Why did you bring us here?" they cried. "Were there no graves in Egypt? We should have stayed as slaves." The people shook with fear, but Moses stood firm. The wind blew through his robe as he faced the terrified nation. Then he spoke. "Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again." And then God moved. A massive pillar of cloud that had guided Israel moved behind them. Darkness covered the Egyptians, but light remained with Israel. The army could not advance. All night long the people waited. Then God spoke to Moses. "Stretch out your staff over the sea." Moses lifted the staff, and suddenly the wind began to roar. A powerful east wind swept across the waters. The sea churned violently. Waves crashed. The sky darkened. Then the impossible happened. The waters began to divide. The sea opened. Walls of water rose on both sides, towering, shimmering beneath flashes of light. And through the middle, a path appeared, dry ground. The Israelites stared in awe. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers stood speechless. Even Moses watched the power of God unfold before him. Then the people began to move. Step by step, Israel walked into the sea. Children looked up at walls of water beside them. Animals rushed forward. Torches flickered against the moving waves. All night long the nation crossed. But Pharaoh would not stop. As dawn approached, Egyptian chariots charged into the divided sea. Wheels thundered across the ground. Soldiers shouted. Horses pushed forward. But something was wrong. The ground beneath them became unstable. Chariot wheels began to break. Confusion spread. Fear entered the hearts of the Egyptians, and suddenly they realized God was fighting against them. Then God spoke once more. "Stretch out your hand." Moses raised his staff again, and the sea came crashing down. The walls of water collapsed with terrifying force. Waves consumed the chariots. The horses disappeared beneath the sea. Soldiers cried out as the waters swallowed them. The mighty army of Egypt vanished beneath the Red Sea. And when the sun rose fully over the horizon, it was over. The Israelites stood safely on the other side, free, truly free. The people stared across the water in silence. The chains of Egypt were gone. The army that once hunted them was gone. Then slowly, joy began to rise. Relief, awe, worship. Miriam lifted her voice. Others joined her. Songs echoed through the wilderness. The God who heard their cries had delivered them. The slaves had become a free nation, and the story of the Exodus would never be forgotten. But the journey was only beginning. Ahead of them lay the wilderness, trials, testing, and a promised land waiting in the distance. Yet one truth had become clear. The God of Israel was greater than Pharaoh, greater than Egypt, greater than fear itself, and his power had changed history forever.